And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Feel Inspired podcast, episode 46. Well on that way to episode 50. I think that's going to be a huge milestone. Today, we've got an awesome guest, and we're going to be speaking about confidence, actually. Now, I love this subject as well because I think it's defined in a number of different ways, and there's no general consensus about it as well. So it'd be good to get some idea of how we can define it better, how we can then utilize it not only for dating, but also for any area of our lives, whether it's asking for a raise or making more friends or doing all of the things you've always wanted to do but kind of held yourself back. So a number of different things we could talk about today, and I'm looking forward to delving in with today's guest. But for anyone who's new, this is the Feel Inspired podcast. My name is Amit Sodha. I've been a coach for about 30 years and 14 of those dedicated to being a dating expert. And alongside that, I'm so fascinated by everything mindset as well. So confidence definitely being no exception to the rule. So without further ado, welcome. And I'm going to welcome my special guest, Helen Frewin, who is a business coach and psychologist. And we're going to be talking all things confidence. So without further ado, welcome, Helen, to the Feel Inspired podcast, guest number 46.
Very exciting. Thank you very much for having me. And like you say, huge milestone on the way with number 50.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. I just like the numbers, really. I'm a numbers guy. So.
It sounds good. Plus, you've got lots of numbers to talk about. 1 million followers, TikTok videos. It's when you've got good numbers, let's shout about the big numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Wednesday wins tomorrow's Wednesday, so Wednesday wins. We'll do it a bit early this week.
Nice.
Listen, so first things first, I love to find out a little bit more about my guests. Even though we've known each other for a couple of years, we've never really had a one-to-one conversation. So I'd love to, for you to tell us your story of, how you got into this line of work. Was it because often, as is often the case, sometimes many of us coaches go through a certain event which causes us to take this path in our lives. So I wondered from your perspective, what made you choose this line of work, and did you start out doing this? And so give us the full lowdown.
Thanks, Amit. So yeah, I did start out from this very young age, knowing that this sort of thing was what I wanted to do, but not having the language for it. So if I think back to being kind of 17 years old and noticing that whilst my parents were very loving towards me and my brother, it wasn't a very happy household because my dad hated his job and my mum loved her job, wanted a career, but this was in an age where women and careers and being a mum as well wasn't kind of quite so respected, or people were open to it. So although she loved her job, she had lots of bad managers, people who left a kind of glass ceiling. So it meant that as a 17-year-old, and certainly in years prior to that, it was not very happy. People would get home from work and be kind of grouchy and moany and arguing, and it wasn't a very happy household. And then when I was 17, I got my first Saturday job and noticed that people were generally quite moany and grouchy at work as well, and talking about lots of problems. There didn't seem to be much of a, well, what can we do about it? It was just, let's moan about it. So I never would have been able to put this into this language then, but I was kind of picking up this idea age 17 that surely life could be better if we enjoyed work more, if we looked for what we could do rather than moaning about what we can't do. And then as I discovered psychology, as I then went to do a degree in psychology, and in my third year, you choose to specialize in areas of psychology. And this guy stood up, and it was my proper moment. He stood up, he said, I'm here to talk to you about occupational psychology. And occupational psychology is all about people enjoying their work, people being better at their work, and that becoming this positive cycle that because I'm better at it, I enjoy it. And because I enjoy it, I become better at it. Positive cycle, and the impact of that on home life as well. And so it was just this moment of that's what I was born to do, not knowing at that point that coaching was part of that, but it became a very natural flow on from it. And fast forward 20 years, that's all I've ever done. It is absolute fire within me to help people connect to a purpose, to find meaning in their work, to love their work, to do a really good job because of all of that, and then get all the benefits that brings in the personal life as well.
Did you say 20 years or do you mean 2 years? Because surely you can't be old enough to be doing it. I'm such a charmer.
Absolutely. Well, there's the flirting. I was reading about this recently. What are your flirting tactics? There we go. We get that one.
There we go. Yeah, mine is I wear my flirting tactics on my sleeve all the time. That's brilliant, and it just goes to show, right? Usually for most people, it ends up coming down to one or two moments at most, and we just kind of then decide, this is what I got to do. This is what I really want to do. So that's absolutely brilliant. And so, I mean, out of all the branches, of which there are so many when it comes to psychology, what was it specifically about business that kind of appealed to, or occupational psychology? What really stood out for you? And you mentioned obviously about the cycle of feeling good, but I think it probably comes down to more than that. So, what would you say it was for you?
I guess there's that whole thing that because we spend so much of our time at work, that improving things at work is a huge opportunity to improve things in life. And also the sense that what difference can we make if we're in a business of making a difference to people, or if we're in a business of doing something that can impact in some way, wouldn't we want to do that better? And so being in the world of work just seemed like a way. I've never really enjoyed academia in the sense of just kind of, let's debate things and we're not going to do anything with it, we're just going to debate it. I've always been more on the application side of, well, what difference can that make? How can we use that? And the world of work just seems to me to be a really great place to use those insights from psychology.
Yeah, I think you're right when you say that. Obviously, we're spending so much time based on our professions, our careers, or whether we're self-employed or whatever. You've got to be this obviously, this is a big hot topic at the moment when it comes to things like the Great Resignation, and just generally, I think even lockdown itself, when COVID occurred, so many people gave thought to what they were doing and ended up knowing that there was fragility in their job, and decided, do I make a move now? Do I do something now? Because do I do something that makes me happy? Even yesterday, I was having a coaching call with a client who's, in a job that was not making them feel so good or happy. And when you're in that position, and I've been in that boat too, it can be it's not a stretch to say soul destroying. It really can be. I'm sure you've probably come across many instances like this, and how far it goes for some people. It just puts their entire lives in turmoil.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating about the work you do on mindset, because the ease with which we get into the mindset of, I'm a victim, there's nothing I can do about this, I'm stuck, or the classic golden handcuffs of, because I earn so much money doing this job, I can't possibly leave because now I've got the mortgage and the kids, and just these trappings that we tell ourselves we can't get out of that. And then, as you say, it becomes utterly soul destroying.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And like I said, I've been in that boat and I felt it firsthand. So it's given me the opportunity to understand when people talk about this subject, because I think to myself, I know exactly what it feels like. And for me, a bit of backstory for me, it was being in a job I didn't enjoy, with people I didn't genuinely get along with, or generally didn't get along with, was treated very much like a second-class citizen, berated for things. When things went bad for some people there, you saw them get treated a certain way, and you would get treated a completely different way. Not really getting praise for the parts that you did well. And it was as a full spectrum of things. And I remember, at this particular employment that I was there, and I went through an experience where I lost my mum. And I remember the way I was treated when that happened, and it wasn't very nice. It was a very, very bad experience. And then when a colleague lost a loved one, they were treated like royalty. And it was still a fresh experience. And when I saw that, it was like literally a knife in the heart. And it was horrible. It was a horrible experience. So I definitely praise the line of work you do, and I think it's more important than most people will realize at first glance. So let's talk a little bit about the confidence aspect as well, because I think that it ties in so well, and not just in one way, but in a number of different ways. But it'd be really good to give this a bit of a definition as well, because I think it is open to definition. Some people say it's a question of experience. Some people say it's ability. Some people say it's capability. I mean, I think it wasn't Tony Robbins, but it was someone of that caliber who mentioned experience, and they said, confidence is just experience. And I get that, but I think it is definitely more, because I before we had this conversation, my mind just kind of trekked back to a date when I went to Wales with a group of friends. And I don't know if you've ever been hiking in the mountains of Wales. There's one of the mountains, one of the peaks is called Trifan, and Trifan there's two stumps at the top of the mountain, and you can jump these stumps, and they're about a meter apart. And it is quite a dangerous thing to do, but it's also relies on confidence. And I remember when me and my friends went, some of them had the confidence to do it, some of them didn't, and I'm using that word deliberately. So it had nothing to do with experience; they hadn't done it before, but they were confident to jump over it. So it's an example of where I think some people have that ability to see past any of their fears and just go for something, whereas others, can get lost in that internal dialogue and like, no way, I'm never doing this in a million years.
Yeah.
So first things first, how would you define confidence? What is it? What are its fundamentals?
Yeah, and I love the way you put it there about seeing past their fears, because to me, if I think of all of the conversations and research and things that you look into with this, confidence almost seems to be more about the lack of something than it being something in itself. So rather than saying confidence is these features, I'm going to say that confidence is the lack of some other features. So confidence is the lack of all of those fears telling me I can't do this. Confidence is the lack of the unhelpful thinking telling me I'm not good enough, I'm going to get found out that I'm not good enough, I'm going to look stupid. All of those thoughts and fears that say I can't do this, it's the lack of those that I would define as confidence. Because if you think about something you're confident to do, whether it's jumping a meter on a peak, or reading a story to your niece, or cooking your favorite meal, what are you doing? What are you thinking when you're confident? And a lot of people will say, oh, well, I guess if I was confident, I'd be thinking, I've got this, I can do this, I'm going to ace it. That's not what you're thinking when you're making your favorite meal or reading a story to your niece. You're just in the zone. You're just doing this thing that you love to do or that you feel natural doing. And so rather than imagining that confidence is this cheesy kind of, yes, I've got this, yes, I can do this, what if confidence was just a silence and a being in the zone that I can just do this and be effective, but I don't have to think that to myself because it's just all of those fears and unhelpful thoughts are not there.
What a unique definition that is. I love that as well. That's something very different. I've never heard that as explained in that way before. And when you think about it, actually, it's so true. It is just the silencing of the mind in that aspect. And so that is a beautiful, beautiful thought. So when it comes to confidence, is it something that can be cultivated? Is it something that we can an acquired or a learned skill? And if so, how does one start the process of beginning to work on their confidence?
Absolutely. So yes, I couldn't be here if I was just going to say, so everybody, that's what confidence is, but sorry about that, you can't have it. So the wonderful thing, and I say I've been doing this for 20 years. It's interesting because I never set out over those 20 years to be a confidence coach or to research confidence. It was never a thing for me. And I decided a couple of years ago that I would love to write a book. I just thought it would be an amazing thing. I mean, gosh, the reach that you have on social media, there's an opportunity here to reach more people. I get to make a difference to people every day, but it might be one person or it might be 10 people. What if I could increase that reach by writing a book and getting the word out? And so it was like, well, what exactly do you want to write about? And actually the thing that, although I would never have said I was a confidence coach or a confidence development person, that was actually the thing that's been underlying of a 20-year career, is helping people get past those fears, helping people move away from the unhelpful thinking and move to something that's better, move to something that's more useful. And so how can you develop confidence? Well, if confidence is the lack of unhelpful thinking, then all we need to do, she says, like it's really simple. Of course, it's not a massively quick fix. This is going to take time. It's a lifelong journey. But arguably, all we need to do is work on managing those unhelpful thoughts, move them to more helpful thoughts, and then we can move to that space where actually we can get in the zone and do a great job. So actually, let's take your jumping across two peaks am I stood here thinking about, what if I fall? What if I hurt myself? I'm too scared. Or am I thinking about, right, how do I want to bend my knees? How am I going to make that jump? And focusing on success. Those more helpful thoughts will help me get in the zone and do what I want to do.
And you talked about it a little bit, you alluded to it a little at the end. It is almost that visualization as well, adding that visualization element that elite athletes would use, or peak performance people would use, and engaging that side of our brain in our thought process to help us make that proverbial leap, not so proverbial leap in this case. And go and do those things. And you also said it as well, where it's so easy to say it to people. I often draw many comparisons between sort of the business world and the dating world. And it is such a common phrase that people use. Oh, just be more confident, just go in there, be confident, and it's, so much easier said than done. But I guess like anything else, it's probably just a practiced skill. It's like the more you do of it, the better you can become at it. But it's, again, like anything else, it requires a bit of time, effort. You've got to start doing it and not just think about doing it, which is what most people do, right?
Exactly. And like you say, I mean, I've originally, when I wrote the book, I was going to call it "You Don't Need More Confidence," because I was kind of fighting back against people saying, "Oh, you just need to be more confident." No, you don't. Because what does that even mean? Like, as you said it, and you were like, "Oh, be more confident," and you get bigger and you go, "Oh, look, I'm being more confident." Why do I have to get bigger? Why, or put a big smiley, cheesy face? Why do I need to do any of that? Is that really what's going to help me be effective? Not necessarily. So instead of telling people to be more confident, what if we help them do something better, like get into the zone? Think about the other person. If you're on a date, what about thinking about the other person and what they might like? If you're going in for a presentation, what about thinking about your audience and what they might need from your presentation? Be more confident is so vague and unclear and unhelpful. Whereas, who's your audience? What might they need from you? And how do you deliver that? Far more specific, far more useful.
And I guess in addition to that is the preparedness as well, because if you go into something, I mention this to people in dating, right? And I say to them, like, think about how much time you would do or prepare before an interview, right? Most people will say, yeah, I spend at least 2 hours, sometimes 5 hours, sometimes 10 hours preparing for an interview. And I'm like, okay, how long do you prepare for a date? What? And I'm like, well, hello. Imagine how different the date would go if you would be prepared, a little bit more prepared. And surely that would go some way to alleviating this, and removing some of that lack of thoughts that you have as well. So again, it's so true as well. Preparedness seems to be like a big part of this as well. And just, if you are prepared, then surely whatever you're doing, job, pitch, whatever, it's going to go a little bit better, just because you're ready and you're more likely to have the answers they're seeking, or responses ready for whatever they might ask you.
Totally. And I want to throw in one of my favorite points here, which is that worrying is not the same as preparation. So how long did you spend worrying before your date? Days, hours, weeks. How long did you spend preparing for your date? Same with the presentation. How long did you spend worrying about your presentation? Most of us will spend a long time worrying and little to no time preparing. And so this is, again, a big bugbear for me. Instead of telling people to be more confident, or, oh yeah, put in some good thinking time. Well, if the thinking time is worrying, it's not quite so helpful. What are some specific questions I could reflect on? Like, who am I going to meet on this date? And what could be, because a lot of that time when we talk about fears, what we've got going on, if we're saying, what if on the date we run out of things to talk about? What if I go and ask for a raise from my boss, and my boss says, no, I don't think you're worth a raise? What if? And the problem with these what if thoughts is that we're not actually exploring the question and answering the question. We're just driving ourselves nuts with worry that, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be really awkward if that happened? Whereas if you prepared and said, what if we run out of things to talk about on the date? Well, then I've thought of a few things that I can bring up as conversation starters. Okay, great. Now I feel prepared. Now I feel I've overcome that fear. of that happening because I'm prepared for it. So just that difference between preparation versus worry that's going, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? Okay, what if that happens? Think about what you can do, far more helpful.
Yeah, that's I think that's such good advice and such sage advice to people. And again, tying on to that as well, because another big skill that we can address with regards to this is the whole idea and notion of communicating with confidence and actually saying something or writing something with confidence as well. So this is a big part of it because again, let's go back to the dating example. The example I give a lot of people I speak to and coach is, if I started this dialogue with, I'm an okay dating coach, and if you want help, then you can use my services, right? Or if I went into the conversation saying I'm the best fucking dating coach you can ever possibly get, there's a big difference there. And obviously you're not going to probably swear on your CV or resume or whatever, but imagine you communicated with that level on your dating profile, for example, saying to people that I am one hell of a catch, so be prepared for a whirlwind journey, when you're dating me or something like that. Just having the audacity to speak with that level of confidence about yourself. And again, I say to everyone that we've all got something that makes us feel, or an area of our lives where we all feel like we are or have some level of confidence, right? I say to people, I pay an accountant to do my accounts. I haven't got a clue. I don't want to do numbers. I'm not very good with numbers, not my forte. Goodbye numbers. I don't want to deal with it. But the person doing it does. They know exactly what they're talking about. They have confidence in that area. So they know, and they can speak about it with confidence. And I obviously put my trust in them. So this whole idea and notion of communicating with confidence as well, where does that start for someone? How do they go about, start, getting that message across, or adding some of that, injecting some of that in what they do and what they put out there?
I mean, it's so powerful, and you've brought it to life exactly in the two examples you've given, that a lot of this is about tone of voice, because even if you said the same words, I'm the best dating coach there is. I'm the best dating coach there is.
Exactly right, yeah.
So it's not just the words we use, it's how we say it. And so there's a lot here in, okay, what is it I want to say? And what's the tone of voice I want to use? How do I want to even think about my pace? Like, so many of us get nervous and then we speak really quickly because I'm really nervous and blah, 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 blah. What if I slowed down, took a breath? How does that add to my credibility? So as you say, a lot of this is about how we speak, not just what we say. And again, I'll talk a lot about presentations because it comes up so often as something people are scared about. Well, we tend to think in presentations about what we're going to say, not how are we going to say it. So yeah, that's a huge part of this. There's something else here when you talk about communicating, even preparing what I'm going to say, the emphasis can become too much about me. And if I make it all about me and how do I make sure that you think I'm good, and how do I make sure, whereas if I make the focus on the other person or on a further outcome, so what outcome do I want from this? Well, I want this date to go really well. What does it mean for the date to go really well? Maybe I want this person to like me. Maybe I want this person to see something in me. Well, then what do I want them to see in me? And the more we think about what outcome do I want, the more we can connect with something rather than just, well, I'm just going to go into this date and hope that I communicate well. And it just feels a bit more vague. Actually, I want this person to see something in me. What do I want them to see? And I love before, Amit, you were saying that all of us have confidence in something. Cooking my favorite meal, reading a book to my niece. Like, what is that thing where you just feel like you're in the zone and you don't have to worry? Because maybe that's the part of you that would be really helpful for you to connect with when you're communicating on a date, in a presentation, in a scary meeting, whatever it might be. And almost to say, oh, well, I'm not a confident person, that's far too broad, because we all
And they say that confidently, don't they? I'm not that confident.
I love that. There's this brilliant, I think it was Adam Grant who said, why do we trust? Like, we tell ourselves that we're terrible, right? Nobody would want to date me. Nobody would want to give me a raise. I'm a terrible person. So we don't have any confidence, but we have tons of confidence in our judgment of ourselves not being good enough. why? So I can say confidently that I'm not confident. Why? It's a bit of a backwards thing. What if we were to challenge some of these narratives we've got? I'm not confident. I'm not good enough. What if we were to challenge some of those and say, I'm confident in some areas of my life. I'm not confident in others, like in accounting. I'm with you. What if I were to tap into the places where I do feel confident and think about, well, how do I feel when I'm doing that? How do I communicate when I'm doing that? Let's apply. Let's learn.
Do you know, two things, right? You mentioned that I want to call back to, one of which was that whole idea of when you're presenting and speaking. When I went to do stand-up comedy, and Jimmy Carr's another comedian, he often talks about this. He goes that, you know, no matter how long I've been doing this, I still feel just as nervous as I did when I was in day one, from when I was, you know, just starting out as a comedian. And I remember when I got good, the nerves never went away. I never felt any more confident as such, but it was being able to just go out there and do the best possible, you know, job I could in that given moment. And then the other thing you mentioned as well is about that whole idea of when we kind of fall into that self-consciousness as well. I know Gabrielle Bernstein talks about this, and she mentioned this when she was doing starting her public speaking journey, and Wayne Dyer mentioned exactly those words to her about when she was focusing more on herself, and he said focus on them, you know, paraphrasing a little bit, but talked about more about them, thinking about what is it, you know, what are you hoping to give them that they walk away with, or something like that. And it's so true that when you put the pressure on yourself, or put the heavy focus on yourself, it's inevitably going to feel a bit like, what do I do? What do I do? How do I do it? But as soon as you take the pressure off or take the focus off, it becomes just a little bit easier. Not doesn't eliminate the problem, but a little bit easier, and will help to go some ways so that you do feel more relaxed, feel more confident, feel more like you're enjoying the process of whatever you're doing, dating, speaking, presenting, or whatever it might be. And it will make all the difference in the world. So I think those are really, really good tips. By the way, I completely forgot to ask you about tell everyone a bit more about your book as well, and feel free to drop in any more plugs as well that you want on that.
Plugs, right? Plug number one. Here's the book.
Yay! I love that. Better than confidence as well.
Better than confidence, yes. So as I was saying before, that so often when we tell people, oh, you need more confidence, you don't need more confidence. You need something better. You need some better thinking tools. So like you say, one of those key thinking tools is to focus on the other person. What does that person need? How can I help them? Or to focus on the outcome you want, or to be prepared. So basically, the book is, first of all, a challenge around definitions of confidence. And if you have got these narratives that you're not confident enough, blah, 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 let's challenge some of that view and say, what if you could have something better than confidence? And then I run through 7 thinking tools that are, I argue, better than confidence. And as I say, this is all coming from 20 years of coaching, leadership development, personal effectiveness programs, of just finding what works for people. And you know, a lot of the ideas in this book have come from clients themselves who come to me and say, oh, I'm thinking maybe I could try this, and then they try it and it works, and then I share that with someone else and they try it and it works. So this is just a collection of tips and ideas that when we think we need more confidence, actually there's something better we can do. And interestingly, I had a guy on a workshop last week who said, sometimes I think I'm a bit overly confident. So, you know, what can I do about that if I'm a bit overconfident? Again, what he's finding is that the tips in the book get him past the complacency of being overconfident. They give him something better than confidence because it's more useful. It's about getting the outcomes you want. So yeah, there you go. There's the book, available on Amazon and Audible if you like audiobooks.
Oh, I do. I'm a voracious Audible listener. I tell you, I'm just on there all the time. So that last point, by the way, I can't wait. I'm going to get your book, by the way, as well, and I'm definitely, you know, going to put some money in your pocket as well, of course, and listen to the book as well. But the idea of this overconfidence one, isn't it? Is such an interesting idea, isn't it? Like, because like most people would be dying for the ability to say that, but I guess I don't know if this is true or not, but I guess that more comes down to the perception of your confidence rather than actually being something that you're overconfident. Because I think that's, I don't know, I don't think that's possible in many ways. I think there is a point where you would enter a stage of arrogance potentially if you're, you know, doing it to belittle someone else. Then yeah, that's a very big potential outcome. but there's no, probably in my book, there's not very much such a thing as overconfidence as such. It's grades of confidence, perhaps. I don't know. What do you think?
Sure. Well, because you can't have a business book without a little 2x2, can you? A little two
Yeah,
by two grid.
yeah, of course,
So I've got
yeah.
my little 2x2 grid, which is looking
Like
at
a
confidence.
Johari window, they call it, right, or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Johari window is a classic 2x2. You've got to have a little 4-box grid.
yeah.
So my little 4-box grid is about confidence versus helpful thinking. So if you imagine a little grid, one side's confidence and other side's helpful thinking, because not all confident thinking is helpful thinking. And so when this guy Tim was saying to me, actually, I think I'm overly confident, what he was saying was, because I feel so relaxed about what I'm doing, actually, I haven't thought about what outcome do I want? Who's this for? What do they need from me? And so I kind of go in and I wing it and I think everything's going to be fine, but then I don't get the best outcome. So it's a kind of complacency. So I would agree with you that arrogance becomes damaging when it's other people's perception, right? I think you're arrogant. I don't think you're very nice. That's arrogance. Overconfidence or unhelpful confidence could just be that I'm getting a bit complacent and I'm not getting the best outcomes.
Yeah, that's well put, I think, as well. Really good example. So when it comes to confidence, what are some of the exercises you recommend to people to help them? So basic step-by-step process. Where does someone start? Someone who's struggling, feels like they're, or thinks they're not confident. What's a good place to begin to kind of start the process? And again, it could be anything. It could be dating, it could be job, could be speaking, it could be asking for a raise, it could be playing a sport, anything at all. No matter what it is, where does someone start that process?
And I love that you've added in those examples, because that's exactly where to start. Is what is it you want confidence for? Because if we just start with that really vague, far too generalized statement, I'm just not confident. What is it you want confidence in? Do you want to be more confident in your accounting? Because then we can look at that. Or do you want to be more confident in dating? Because then we can look at that. So getting specific first on what is it I want confidence in or for, because now we're more focused on something specific. So if I say, okay, I want to be more confident in sport, okay, let's get specific even about which sport I'm talking about. And then we can look at, okay, what is it that I want as an outcome in that thing I'm doing? Or if I want to be more confident in giving presentations, what outcome do I want from that presentation and then from this presentation? So it moves us from just this vague general, I need more confidence, to, well, I want to be having more confidence, or I want to be more effective. That would be better language, really. I want to be more effective or get more outcomes that I want in this specific thing. And therefore, I can say, what outcome do I want? Who else am I serving in this, or who else is involved, and what do they need? I can look at how I can make sure that I'm prepared for that situation. So it all becomes about saying, what's the outcome I want, or what's the thing I'm focused on, and then becoming more effective at getting the outcome you want, rather than thinking you need more confidence.
I love that. That's so true as well, because it does become a blanket statement for most people, right? I just need more confidence. Well, hello, let's find out a little bit more, just a bit more information, and that is the key, isn't it? What is it you're referring to? What is it you're pertaining to that you want more confidence in? And just having that, as Tony Robbins says, right? Clarity is power. So if you have an idea of what it is exactly, you can then start the ball rolling and start that process of shifting your mindset somewhat to develop that confidence or create that confidence, or as you, what was the word you used again? My mind's gone blank. That you said
Just being more effective,
effective.
getting the outcomes
That's
you
it.
want.
Effective, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah.
And being more effective as a human being in that particular
Yeah.
pursuit you're talking about, right? And so, if all of all the cases that you've handled, all the people you've worked with, was there one which was particularly challenging, where someone really had what you would diagnose as real low self-confidence, and what that looked like, what that took a form of, and how you were able to help them, or how they will be able to help themselves as well get through that and start developing their confidence?
Yeah, great question, because it's those stories, isn't it, that really brings it
Yeah.
to life. So if I tell you about a woman I worked with a number of years ago now, because it's been amazing to see the journey that she's been on over the years. So she first came on a workshop that was called Imposter Syndrome. So it was right there in the heading, you know, this is for you if you lack confidence. If you've never come across the title of Imposter Syndrome, it's what people say, you know, I feel like an imposter. I feel like people are going to realize I can't do my job, or I don't know what I'm talking about. And so she'd come to that workshop because she's got to a certain stage in her career and she just felt like, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about. People are going to realize I don't know what I'm talking about. That's not good. And we talked about, okay, first off, when you say I want to be more confident, what is it you want to be more confident in? And the big thing for her was speaking up in team meetings, because she'd been fine speaking up with her peers, but now she was moving into this leadership level. So now her peers were these like senior leaders. And I feel like I don't know enough. I can't speak up in the meeting. But if I don't speak up in the meeting, I look like maybe I shouldn't have got the job. And she was driving herself crazy in this, oh, I should speak up, but I can't speak up. I don't know anything. So moving from I'm an imposter, I don't know anything, to what specifically do you want to change? I want to speak up more in meetings. I want to add value and show that they were right to put me in this job. I know what I'm talking about. So even that in itself is a huge shift to move from, like we say, oh, I just need more confidence. And what is it you actually want to be different? So then, okay, you want to move to that space, but she was completely paralyzed. Like you say, a really strong case of, I just can't speak up. Like, how am I even going to speak up in the meeting? Because everyone else is talking. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, can I say something?
Yeah.
So she was just completely, she felt paralyzed. And a really powerful thing you talked about earlier, all of us are confident in something. I asked her to think about two things. One, where is she already confident at something? And two, where has she managed to make changes before? Or where has she managed to get more confident at something? And for ages in the workshop, because, you know, there's other people in the workshop, we're having conversations. And whenever I heard her speaking, she was saying, oh, there's just nothing. There's nothing I'm confident in. There's nothing I've done before. And it was right towards the end of the session, she said, oh, escalators. Right? Not really the word I was expecting to come up in this session, but fine, go ahead. She used to have this massive fear of going on escalators. And because she worked in London and up and down in the London Underground all the time, she needed to get past that. And so she kind of had this step-by-step plan of, once she'd go on an escalator with a friend, and then she'd go on an escalator with a friend and do it twice, and then she'd do it 3 times, and then eventually she'd work up to going without a friend. And she built up this comfort level with going on an escalator. And now it doesn't bother her at all and she's fine. And what she realized was that that was her demonstrating that she can improve her confidence in something, she can change something in herself. And that was a huge turning point. This big explosion of escalators was her realizing that she could do this. She could plan out, okay, well, how do I speak up in meetings? How do I have those step-by-step plans that could help me feel as confident speaking up in meetings as I now do on escalators? And you look at her then years on, and she's leading those meetings. She's promoting other people and getting them to speak up in meetings because she recognized that she could do it herself. And it's just incredible to see someone go on that journey simply by, one, recognizing what it is we really want to change. So let's not say I want more confidence. Let's say, what is it I want to achieve, or what outcome do I want? 2, recognizing that I can do that. And 3, planning out the steps to get there.
Yeah, that's such a good example. I love that. And I love the escalator story as well. That's so cool. It is brilliant. And you know, like a few things you triggered some good memories in me as well, and some other points with regards to what you said. Like one of which is that when you're in a situation like that, I think there's so much power in honesty, because we have this assumption that everyone there knows everything that's going on, and we're the complete outlier who knows nothing. But actually, I think everyone's probably in the same boat to a certain degree. And there's great power in honesty. If you were to say something along the lines of, this is a new subject for me and I'm still learning. I'm still getting my head around this. And I'd be lying if I said I understood everything. So I need to digest, think about it, formulated plan, whatever it might be. But that level of honesty, bringing that to the table, because like when you were telling the story, because that's completely me as well. I have to admit, I have major imposter syndrome issue. I think everyone does. We all do, right? If I was in a room full of Gary Vaynerchuk's and Tony Robbins, naturally I'm going to feel like I'm a complete imposter to be there. But everyone feels that to a certain degree. But if you're able to articulate your honesty in such a way, constructive way, then actually that takes that pressure off you feeling like you need to know the answers, you need to know everything, you need to have everything there and then. But we live in that kind of society that right at the moment everyone has to know everything, we all have to have the answers there and then. If you don't, why don't you have the answers there and then? And it's like a bit of a corporate toxic culture in some ways. Yeah. And then also in addition to that as well, like, you mentioned the I've lost my chain of thought now. Come back to it, no problem.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I just love that example though of the escalators and using techniques like that. But the imposter syndrome is such a big thing at the moment, isn't it? So again, another hot topic, and I don't really know anyone who hasn't experienced it at some point or another in their life. I mean, I read a stat recently when I did a video on this, and it was like 1 in 4 people have experienced imposter syndrome. And I've got to admit, I think I call bullshit on that. I think it's probably everyone at some point has experienced it or felt it to a certain degree. They probably just didn't articulate it with those 2 words, but it was there. And so we all go through experiences where we feel like, we're not so confident to say or be in that room or be in that environment or say something, or that everyone else is ahead of us, or it could be any number of things, but it manifests in different ways for each of us. But it's there, isn't it, for all of us? We've been through it, we've done it, but it's how you then decide to handle it. It's developing that, and this is where the mindset comes in, developing that self-awareness, realizing in that moment to pause for a second that this is what I'm feeling, so how do I handle this now? What do I say? What do I do? What's going to help me move forward and handle this so I don't trip up and feel like I'm an idiot and make it even worse, right? So that kind of thing, if you know what I mean.
Totally. And what you said before about the humility and honesty to say, thanks everyone for having me in this meeting. I'm new to this. I don't know if I have all the answers. I'd like to contribute to the meeting, but I'm conscious I don't know as much as you do. We've got this strange idea that if someone else says that sounds good and honest, and actually it kind of makes me trust them more because they've been really honest. So if someone else says it, it's good. But if I say it, I'm a failure, I'm terrible, and I'm going to get fired. It's like, why have we got this massive double standard?
Yeah.
Equally, as you say about someone saying, I don't have the answer to that. Let me take that away. It's a good question. Let me take that away. I'll come back to you on that tomorrow. If someone else says that, we're like, okay, fair enough. But I'm not allowed to say that.
Yeah.
Weird double standard.
It's so true, right? And I think if we acknowledge that, look, we're all fallible human beings. We've all got strengths, we've all got weaknesses, and no one is perfect at everything. And if we could just fess up to that, and it's empowering when you do it, when you actually stand up and say, I don't know. I really don't know. And that's okay, and I think that's one thing that does lack, in some corporate cultures, is that, if you're in certain environments, that would be frowned upon, possibly. But I think in a healthy environment, most people would be like, hey, this person is suddenly cool in my books, just for saying that, for being honest. It's such a rare trait and a powerful thing to do. And it in itself, when you do it, it's almost like an instant psychology cathartic healing process, because you stand up, you do it, and you feel, you're like, oh, I feel good now. I feel quite nice. That felt good to do that, to be able to say that. And
I survived.
Yeah.
You think, if I ever said I didn't know the answer,
it says, I survived being honest about my imposter syndrome. I might make that t-shirt.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. We can split the profits on that one. Oh, that's so true. Yeah. So anything else that I haven't asked you today that you want to kind of have a burning desire to share with the world today about when it comes to confidence, and just anything around that area in summary as well, that you would just want to share? I often say to people, if it's last day and you could just share one message, what would it be? So what would you share with everyone?
And I'm going to be cheeky and take 2, because why not? So two things. One I've kind of mentioned, but I just want to say a bit more about it, is about the being prepared with the what if questions. So when we do think about jumping from one peak to the next, or going on a date, going for a presentation, whatever that thing is that we find scary, but what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if I don't know the answer to that question? There's a really powerful tool by Tim Ferriss.
Oh, yeah.
So you can look up Tim Ferriss's TED talk on this, and it's in the book as well, where he said, make out 3 columns on a piece of paper. What's the thing you want to do? So I want to go for a presentation, I want to go for a date. Say what the thing is you want to do. And then in the first column, you write out all of those, what if we run out of things to talk about? What if I don't like them? What if they don't like me? What if I get fired? All the things that we're worried about. Write those out in the first column. The second column is about saying, what could I do to reduce the chance of that happening? So if I'm worried that in the presentation, what if I don't know the answer to a question? Well, I could think about what questions might people have and make sure I've prepared answers. If it's, what if I say something stupid? What could I do to avoid saying something stupid or reduce the chance of saying something stupid? Well, I could, again, prepare in advance or whatever that might be. So column 1 is, what am I afraid might happen? Column 2 is, how could I reduce the chance of that happening? And then column 3 is your Dr. Pepper. What's the worst that could happen? What if it actually happens, that thing you're really worried about? Well, then what could you do then? How could you follow up? Do you want to apologize? Do you want to go back and do some damage control? So that instead of them feeling paralyzed by that list of fears, you feel empowered and in control about how to manage any of those situations happening. And it's an incredible tool for just managing our fears.
I love that. That's beautiful. Was that both? Did I miss one there?
That was the one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, number 2.
My second one is, I've become a huge admirer / stalker of Joe Wicks.
Ah, nice.
Mr.
Okay.
Fitness guru. And just, you talked earlier about taking the steps, doing something. As an overall thing, we use confidence as an excuse to not do something. And when I follow Joe Wicks talking about fitness and exercise, what he'll often talk about is motivation. People write to him every day, I want to exercise, I want to live healthier, but I just don't have the motivation. How do you get motivated every day? And one of the big Joe Wicksisms is the motivation comes after the workout. It's, don't wait to feel motivated, just go and do it. And I want to say the same thing about confidence. Don't wait for confidence. Go and do the thing you want to do. And who knows, you're probably going to feel a bit confident afterwards as well. There you go. I'm all done.
I love that. I often use that as an analogy with people as well. I say that, how do you get more confident at playing tennis, for example? You don't just do it by thinking about it. You go and play, right? Your first one, you're going to be absolutely rubbish. But once you've done it 100 times, you're going to be a lot better and you're going to feel confident about playing. And, there's no substitute for just doing something and not waiting for the feeling, because the feeling bit comes after. And I, my wife and I often talk about this as well. And we have this agreement that when it comes to going to the gym, our agreement is there are days we're not going to feel like working out, but we just got to get into our gym gear, get to the gym, walk in the gym and walk out if we want to, but get to the gym and exercise. Like get to the gym, keep the habit of going there. And then the exercising bit, once you get there, is optional, because 99.9999% of the time you get there, you're going to do something. But it's just getting there. And then after the rest of it takes care of itself. So I think that's so true, actually, as well. You've got me to look into Joe Wicks now as well. I think this is great. So wonderful advice, I think. And as we round off as well, I wanted to ask you, please do tell everyone how they can get in touch with you if they wanted to, or want to find out more about what you do, or where your book is, or any of the above, or stalk you on social media.
Absolutely. Stalking always welcome. So I'm going to put my name, because Frewin's a bit, you can see my name on screen. That's helpful as well. There's the book. It's got my name at the bottom. So if you want to find the book, you can go on Amazon and find the book. If you want to find me, LinkedIn, Instagram. Thankfully, there's not many Helen Frewin, so I'm pretty easy to find. And to make it even easier, there's helenfrewin.com, where you can find loads of resources about this subject and find out more about it. So plenty of ways to get in touch. Generally, just Googling my name is a good start, because there's not many of us.
Yeah. And of course, it's on Audible as well.
Indeed. There we go. Go have a listen. Apparently, I have a good voice for audiobooks, which I thought was better than a face for radio. So I'll take it.
Many a time I've been told I got the face for radio. Many a time. So yeah, no, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your pearls of wisdom and all of your years of experience and tips and helpful insights for when it comes to confidence, being more confident, exercising your desire to go do all of these things that you want to do, but have been talking yourself out of all of these years. And I genuinely think it's so helpful. So I wanted to say thank you for being one of my most awesome guests. You're an absolute superstar, Helen, and you've just gone up in my estimation as well. So
Well, thank you very much.
I'm teasing. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure. So I wanted to say thank you again, and to everyone else out there. You've been listening to the Feel Inspired podcast. Definitely connect with Helen. Connect with me, and this video will also be on Spotify as well if you want to watch it on your work journey or whatever it might be. So it'll all be there as well. So thank you again. I'm going to end the live now, but see you all on the next episode, and have and stay with me, Helen, and see you all very soon. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.